The first time I noticed him was after a Tuesday night video drop. I had just posted a behind-the-scenes vlog on my OnlyFans. Nothing explicit, just me talking about loneliness, lighting setups, and what it feels like to be seen only when shirtless. It was one of those quieter uploads. No filters. No sultry glances. Just a hoodie, soft light, and me speaking into the lens like it was a friend who wouldn't interrupt. I remember ending the video with a question I hadn't planned to ask. Do you ever wonder what it means to be looked at but not really seen? I figured the usual replies would roll in: eggplant emojis, requests for full-body angles, the occasional flirt disguised as feedback. But at 2:07 a.m., a new comment slid in. You speak like you're waiting for someone to listen between the words. I heard all of it. It wasn't the usual thirsty emoji parade. It was thoughtful, unnerving, and familiar. The username, stillrooted86, didn't ring a bell. But the writing? That rhythm. It felt like a poem I'd once forgotten. I stared at the comment longer than I should have, rereading it like it had a hidden code. There was something in it, a cadence, a hush, that reached backward in time. So I clicked the profile. Only 3 photos. One of a tree stump, weather-worn and surrounded by snow. One of a paperback novel folded spine up on a diner counter. And the third, a man in a hooded jacket looking just slightly off camera. The jawline, the slope of his nose, the freckle on his lower lip. My breath caught. It was Silas, my college roommate's older brother. I hadn't seen Silas in nearly a decade. He'd always been the quiet one during late-night study hangs, nursing cider while the rest of us blared playlists and yelled over takeout. But even then, he had a presence. Still waters, deep and maybe dangerous. He had this way of listening that made you feel like your words were being stored, not judged. Once, sophomore year, I caught him watching me across the kitchen counter while I ranted about how no one ever really wanted to know you when you were the funny one. He hadn't said anything at the time. Just nodded slowly like he understood. And now he was here. Not on Instagram. Not by email. Not through mutual friends or a class reunion. He found my link. Before I continue, viewer family, stop scrolling. If you've ever had someone resurface and see you, not just your content, but you, like this video, share it with your best friend. Drop your city in the comments so we know where hearts like this still beat. And if you don't subscribe, you might miss the one story that proves love can follow your link back to you. Silas didn't just comment once. He became my top commenter. His notes weren't sexual. They were reflective, thoughtful, patient in a way that made me pause. He'd quote parts of my rambling monologues like they were scripture, always pulling out the lines I barely remembered saying. One night, after a quiet video where I spoke about burnout and the weight of curated vulnerability, he tipped with a note. You don't perform. You confess. That line hit different. It felt like it saw me. We started messaging. Carefully. Slowly. The way you walk across a frozen lake in spring, knowing there's beauty below, but uncertain if it will hold your weight. I asked if he meant to click my link. It took me months, he replied. But I wanted to see who you became when no one was defining you but yourself. That message undid something in me. I reread it half a dozen times. There was no angle. No flirt. Just truth. Unshakable and quietly brave. Silas lived 2 hours away. I didn't ask him to visit. He offered. Said he'd be in town for work and could drop by if I wanted real pie, not just sweet DMs. It was casual on the surface. But my stomach buzzed like first snow. He arrived on a Friday, wearing a mustard corduroy jacket and the same half-smile I remembered from campus. His hair was longer now, peppered with early gray. He looked tired in a kind way, like someone who'd spent a decade listening more than speaking. We didn't touch it first. We didn't need to. He brought pie, cherry bourbon, and we ate it on the floor, plates balanced on our knees. I put on an old record and let the crackle fill our pauses. His eyes didn't flinch from mine. There were whole conversations in those silences. Things we hadn't said then. Things we didn't need to say now. Later, as the room softened into amber, he asked, "Do you feel safe when you film?" I hesitated. Only when I forget the camera's there. Only when I talk like no one's watching. He nodded slowly, as if he'd expected that answer. Let me be someone you don't have to perform for. Not here. Not ever. There was no suggestion in his voice. Just a quiet vow, spoken like a promise he'd already started keeping. We didn't sleep together that night. We fell asleep facing each other, fully clothed, breath to breath. The couch was too narrow, but neither of us moved. His hand rested over mine, like a promise wrapped in quiet. There was no tension, no hurry. Just the sound of his breathing settling into mine, the soft hum of the fridge in the background, and the comfort of being still in a world that constantly demanded movement. The next morning we cooked eggs, scrambled a little too peppered, and brewed coffee strong enough to jolt poetry into our veins. I brought out my sketchbook, hesitant. It held storyboards for a video I'd never had the courage to shoot. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't clever. It was raw, me talking about grief, about losing the version of myself I thought I had to be. Silas flipped through the pages slowly, reverently. "I want to help you make it," he said, closing the book carefully. "Not to be in it, just to hold the space around you while you do." We filmed it that afternoon. Natural light through the windows. No music, no filters. Just me, and his voice, soft and steady from behind the camera. He didn't ask leading questions. He asked real ones. When did you start hiding behind the smile? What part of you still feels like home? And the hardest one, who do you become when you think no one is watching? I answered them all. Not like a performer, like someone finally safe. It became my most viewed post. Not because it was flashy, but because it was honest. 2 weeks later, I filmed a soft focus scene, candles, jazz, no script. I told my subscribers it was about warmth, about what it looks like to be seen gently. Silas was there, not in front of the camera, but present, grounding. Halfway through filming, I sat beside the candlelight and started to speak, but the words faltered. He reached out, off camera, and touched my shoulder. I turned. We kissed in the outro. It wasn't planned. No dramatic pause. No cue. Just two people who had been building a world in silence, finally stepping into it together. And when he whispered, "I found your link, but I never expected to find this," I felt something break open. This wasn't a fan fantasy. This was someone who found me, fully. If you're still here, you're not just watching. You're part of something bigger, a story that keeps breathing every time you hit play. Like the video. Share it with someone you thought was gone. Comment your location and maybe the initials of someone you miss. Subscribe, because we're not done unfolding. The night that post went live, the comment section glowed like a constellation, cities and initials stitched together by strangers who suddenly didn't feel so alone. Reykjavik, JM Nairobi, TO Lodz, yes New Orleans, MB. I read each one aloud to Silas while we lay on the living room rug, the camera long since off, our world reduced to candlelight and heartbeat. "They're carrying our flame," he murmured, scrolling through the flood of initials. Tiny lanterns all over the planet. I looked at him, watched the reflection of the screen flicker in his eyes that never once asked me to be more than I am. And something inside me steadied for good. "Stay on the rug," I whispered. He did. I retrieved my phone, turned on the front camera, and hit record without a script. Live now. Sometimes you meet someone who refuses to let your light dim. Tonight, right here, I'm asking him one question I've never dared to film. Silas blinked but said nothing, trusting me. I set the phone on the coffee table, angle wide enough to frame us both, legs folded, candles guttering low, shadows moving like soft water. "Silas," I said, voice shaking but clear, "will you build the rest of this channel, the rest of this life with me? On camera or off, however you choose." The chat exploded, racing faster than my pulse. Silas' face broke open into the gentlest, fiercest smile I'd ever seen. He didn't give a speech. He simply reached for my hand, the same way he had that first night we didn't sleep. "Yes," he answered. "Yes, in every frame, in every quiet, in every comment section we'll ever read." I swallowed a laugh sob, leaned in, and we kissed, soft, certain, ceiling. When we pulled back, the screen filled with hearts, with names, with places I had to look up on a map. The world witnessing. Silas still comments on every video. Sometimes full paragraphs breaking down lighting choices. Sometimes just a single candle emoji, a flame that burns slow. And stays. But now, every time that tiny icon appears in my notifications, I don't feel watched. I feel accompanied. And the best part, we're just hitting record.